Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
One time I went to the grocery store with my ex-boyfriend because I needed tampons, and I had made a comment about how I thought that tampons were getting so expensive. And he straight up told me to stop complaining. And I said, no, tampons and pads should be free because it's something that a woman needs and it's something that they just can't control. He then says, no, buying one box of tampons is like buying a bulk item from Costco. And I was like, what are you talking about? Some of the boxes only have like 10 or 20 in them. That's not a lot. And he tries to tell me that women only need one tampon throughout their whole entire cycle. I'm full on arguing with him in the middle of the grocery store saying, no, you have to change them every couple hours or you can get toxic shock syndrome and get really, really sick and potentially die. And he said, see, you're paying for something that could be deadly. Of course it's not going to be free. I broke up with him after that.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
One time I was at my husband's work function, and one of his coworkers asked me what I do for a living. I said, oh, I'm getting my PhD. He goes, oh, what are you writing on? I say, oh, I actually do sci-fi adaptations of the canon, mostly comic book adaptations of, like, the Odyssey and outer space, that kind of thing. It's kind of my line. He goes, oh, you must be really excited for the Octavia Butler comics that are coming out soon. I go, what? And he goes, Octavia Butler was a really famous sci-fi writer. She wrote a lot of Afrofuturism. I don't know, have you heard of Parable of the Sower or Kindred? Those are kind of her most famous works. And you should really check them out. They sound relevant to your work. I said, do you possibly mean adaptations of her work? And he goes, no, I think they're going to be original comics that Octavia Butler's going to, like, be involved in writing. And I go, I don't think so. And this man proceeds to, like, really double down. Like, he really thinks Octavia Butler's coming out with comics. So eventually I interrupt him and I go, sir, Octavia Butler died in 2006.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
So a man took me to get tacos. Cute little date, little vibe. I'm eating the chips before we get our meal. I'm dipping it in the salsa, and he's like, do you like the salsa? And I was like, yeah, I do, it's good. He's like, do you know that if you like the salsa, you can actually also put that on your tacos? And I was like, yeah, I'm aware of how salsa works for different why are you telling me this? He's like, well, I just didn't know if you'd know that, like, it's not just for the chips, you can also put it on whatever else you'd like. This man then proceeded to drive me home and say, do you know White Iverson? He has the song Post Malone.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
When I was in high school, a good friend caused her own death by carbon monoxide poisoning. When I was in college, my mother was killed in a car crash, and my dad died of a broken heart shortly after. I had a series of reproductive losses by miscarriage. I had a good friend cause her own death by gunshot. Another died from an aneurysm, a third to breast cancer, another to stroke, and of course there's been heart attacks. My brother-in-law died of COVID, and my husband died 3 years ago of lung cancer. My master's thesis is on grief and bereavement. I've written a book. My doctorate is in clinical psychology. And yet a man told me I didn't really understand grief, and he explained it to me. Who has he lost in his own life? His dog died when he was 12.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
He mansplained my job to me. So it was a social function, it was a cigar and whiskey night, and I was at a table with a group of people I'd never met. And one of them was a tall man in a suit with business cards made out of metal. Anyway, when he was done talking about his job, they asked me what I did. So I said, I'm a voiceover artist. And the guy was like, oh, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm an announcer. Record my voice for TV and radio commercials, all that stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, can I hear a sample? I feel like at this point, it's important to note that he was a 6-foot-tall American man, and I am a 5'6" Filipino woman. Anyway, so I did a short sample. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand launch of the Cigar and Whiskey Bar. Something like that. And he was like, hey, your English is pretty good, but this is actually how you do it. I've had 4 years in college radio. So I said, oh, well, that's a really good try. Good job. So of course he got pissed and he was like, well, what are your credentials? And I was like, oh, I've been in the voiceover industry for 20 years, but 4 years of college radio is great.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you. I'll go.
So, this one time I was showering with a man. In the shower, I was cleaning my lady parts. Knowing that I'm prone to UTIs and yeast infections, I clean it a specific way, which includes not putting soap up my vagina. This man told me that I should be putting soap in my vagina, not around it, inside. When I explained to him how that can actually irritate the pH levels in the vagina and that it's actually advised not to do that, he took the soap and put it on my vagina. And then explained to me how soap is important when you're cleaning your vagina. And then explained how to clean a vagina, which he doesn't have. And then I got a yeast infection. So that was fun.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
So I'm a certified athletic trainer. I did my master's thesis on concussion in sport. I deal with it every day. Elbow, apple, carpet, saddle, bubble. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I know them in and out. I was standing on the sideline of a football game. Guy gets hit. He kind of goes down, does a whiplash type of counter coup type of mechanism. And I just see a light go out in his eyes. He does not look like he's there. So I immediately go over to him. I'm going to pull him off to do a quick eval when a coach literally steps in front of me, says, "No, I was standing right there. I saw him. He didn't get hit in the head." I said, "I know, but he hit his head on the ground. You don't have to get directly hit in the head to have a concussion." He says, "No, that's not true. I played football all my life. I know." This guy literally is body checking me, will not let me do a concussion eval on this kid. Keeps bringing up how he's played football all his life, so he knows. I said, "Are you a medical professional?"
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained.
1979. I'm going to put a down payment on my own house. I'm walking a clown. I'm stuck. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm taking the keys. I don't know. I don't want to open the car. I go to the car. I see it's no gasoline in the car. I go to a gas station. I take the girl. Listen, $20 al numero 7. The guy behind me, see, she doesn't talk so good English. Hey, miss, do you know to put gasoline? I said to myself, what an idiot, what an asshole. I just moved the car. I don't know to put. But I played dummy and he put the gasoline for me. And all of a sudden he became like a macho and he's telling me, "My name is Carter. You want to go out for dinner?" Listen, Carter, piece of shit. You better buzz off. You are talking to the wrong tree. I'm buying now my own house. So better luck next time. You better go to the lake, idiot.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
So a few weeks ago, I was on a date in Colorado with one of my friends, and I was explaining my van build to him and telling him all about the work that I did on it and my solar setup. And I have 750 watts of solar power available to me on my van, which was a very intentional choice. It's a huge investment. I knew what I was doing. Wanted to run sewing machines, all the stuff that I need to work, and potentially be able to install an industrial sewing machine in it one day. Anyways, this man gets up from across the patio, comes over, interrupts our conversation to ask me if I understand that that's a lot of solar power. And if I was aware, because it was just so like crazy to him that I have that much solar power. And he just wanted to make sure that I knew that that was a lot. Okay.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you. I'll go first.
So I know it probably wasn't very clear from that, what she was wanting. So what it is if you've ever had something happen to you or it's clear that you have knowledge on the issue, but a man comes and says, it tries to explain it to you in a really condescending fashion, as if you have no idea what you're talking about. That's what she wanted you to do. It didn't seem like it was explained well enough. So anyways, that's what she wanted.
Stitch this with the stupidest thing a man has ever mansplained to you.
I don't know if this is so much like mansplaining as it is just men. But I gotta say my fave is whenever a man tries to say that getting kicked in the nards is worse or as bad as childbirth. Honey, I've seen you crush your peanuts, and I've also seen dozens of women deliver children. What happened to you when you took a trip to Pain Station in between your legs? Huh? You went, oh, and you doubled over for a few seconds, and then you got up, smacked your buddy on the ass, and took a shot. So many things that happens to a woman when she delivers a human, but just one of them is she's not even cleared for sexual activity for at least 6 weeks. I've accidentally kicked my husband in his downtown during foreplay, and we continued onward. I think you're gonna make it. I think you're gonna be fine.